Everybody for tuning in here. Should be a couple interesting days coming up. So a lot of you know that I am. I'm sorry, I'm trying to put my slipper on over here. It's not a good visual. That's why I don't have my video on. Um, no, I'm a history guy, and they've been asking like, what is Taft Hartley? You're going to be hearing a lot about this over the next couple days because of this strike, which looks like it's going to happen. So anyway, just to give it a little brief history. Um, Taft was what we got. Mets clinch playoff spot. Guy I used to work for, Steve Cohen, is now the uh, owner of the Mets, as you probably know. I don't really follow baseball. I enjoy it though. I love watching the World Series every year. Oh, and I also like watching the Chiefs lose. Anyway, all right, enough of that. So basically, this is what happened after World War II. There was like a lot of inflation because there was so much spending for the war effort. So a lot of the unions who played a valuable role during World War II, I'm not going to say they didn't, um, wanted massive increases in wages, right? So President Truman, who was a Democrat, thought that a lot of these unions were entitled and they were asking for too much and they were asking for unrealistic demands. And he battled really hard with some of these various unions. There were union leaders that he actually hated. Um, so, anyway, long story short, Taft and Hartley. Taft was, I'm not sure if he was a senator. I think he was the son of President William Taft. And then there was Hartley. So, basically, long story short, Taft Hartley is a thing a president can invoke when there's going to be a strike that could negatively affect the country. And it allows him to call for a cooling off period of, I believe it's 80 days. And in certain situations throughout our country's history, like for example, when the railroads workers went on strike at one point, which was before Taft Hartley, it was in the early 1900s. The president basically stepped in and said, "Listen, you got your roles are too important. You can't do this. Okay, if you if you go on strike, we're going to either send you to jail, we're going to draft you into the military, we're going to replace you, blah blah blah." Now we got this big potential strike that's going to happen with the dock workers, and so people are saying, well, Biden, who I believe he's still the president. I don't know. I haven't seen the guy lately. Could step in and say, listen, you guys are not allowed to strike. Okay. We got to put this on hold here for a while. It's going to be too detrimental to the economy. Um, why are they not talking about it? I have no idea. I don't know who the hell they are giving advice. If I was Vice President Harris, okay, this is just like a political layup. Oh my gosh. Instead of her being down there at the border trying to pretend that she cares and she knows what she's doing, this is just like, if you're a politician, this is just like, it's like free, I don't know what the term is, free political capital. She's got to do is make a statement or make a speech. Oh, we got this big strike that's about to happen, so forth and so on. So anyway, that's the gist of Taft Hartley. Why are these people not talking about it? I don't know. They're not serious people. It's hard to believe that people with such limited abilities can get to such important positions. But anyway, so one of the things I wanted to just point out here is CVS, just because it's a pretty interesting, it shows our principles of the market that we always talk about. Levels that were support can convert into resistance. And you can see that right here. So right around 63.30 or so, um, it was support back in last September, last August. Okay. Now, guess what? Now the level has become resistance. I mean, you don't need to be a chart guru or a former hedge fund trader to see that. Level that was support over here became resistance over here. And you can even see down here, levels that were support can stay intact. So why would this happen? Well, people buy here. And when the price goes lower, a lot of the people that bought at the support say, I made a mistake. If it gets up to my price, I'm going to get out at break even. So when it finally gets back to their level, remorseful buyers placing sell orders. can convert what was support into resistance. Another thing you can see here is why does a level that was support once become support again? Very clear down here. Support, support, support. This is because of seller's remorse. People sell at the bottom and the price blasts off right when they're done and they're like, oh, they're kicking themselves. If he gets back to my price, I'm going to buy my shares back. So seller's remorse can keep support intact. Buyer's remorse can turn what was support into resistance. You also have buyer's remorse here. Why would you get a peak at a former peak? There are people that bought at the peak who regret doing so, gets up to their level, wham, they try to get out at break even. You know, when I was at SAC, which is the Steve Cohen firm, I was fortunate to be there when I was pretty young and I didn't have a lot of preconceived ideas. But you start to learn that like technical analysis, if done correctly, it's not about Elliott wave and dumbass stuff like that, Fibonacci. It's about understanding momentum. It's about understanding what price levels are important. I mean, look at this. You know, you don't need to be a chart guru to see this here, or Steve Cohen to see this. Support there became resistance over here. Resistance here became support over here. So resistance can become support because of seller's remorse. People sell, and at first the price goes down, and like, oh, I did a great job. And when it goes higher, they're like, made a mistake. If it gets back to my pricing, I'm going to buy my shares back. If enough remorseful sellers go to buy their shares back at the level that was resistance, guess what? It turns resistance into support. So I just wanted to show you this chart here on CVS because I just think it's just teaches a lot of valuable lessons here. So let's just do a quick view here of the S&P, which has kind of slowly been, it's actually been going sideways. I saw some people say today that the S&P made an all-time new high. That was, you know what? That wasn't an all-time intraday high. That was an all-time closing high. But let's go through this. Different sectors are in charge of the market at different times. This is our tech sector. Doesn't look good to me. What happened here? Just like we talked about, we see yes, you get to a level that was resistance, it becomes resistance again. So this strength ain't coming out of tech. Let's just take a quick look at what I call the big three. And I don't mean autos. Okay, so Apple's showing a little bit of positive action here, but the sector isn't, which means this tells me Nvidia and Microsoft are probably pretty weak. But notice here, when we go and talk about our price levels, the high trade there was the close there. So there's probably going to be some resistance around where we are. So let's look at Microsoft. Yeah, not much going on there. And here's another example of what was resistance became support. If you can identify these important price levels, your life as a trader will be very different than it is now if you're actually losing money. People tend to overthink trading. And there's a reason for that. Wall Street tries to make things seem very complicated. There are literally like PhDs and physicists and blah 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 that try to put the math into this. But trading is not a chess game. Trading is like a poker game. I mean, there are strategies and things you need to follow, but you got to understand when we look at a chart, we're looking at emotions. Forget the fact that we're looking at Nvidia. We're looking at the graphical illustration of the people that trade Nvidia. What looks bearish to me here is look at this. Markets go in peaks and valleys. And when your peak forms at a lower level than the prior peak, we call that a lower high. As time is going by, that tends to be a bearish thing. It tells us that people that want to sell are getting more aggressive. They're willing to accept lower prices. What do we have down here? Oh, massive sell-off. What happens? We find support at the level that was resistance before. Support becomes resistance. Resistance again over there. All right, so tech is not looking very, I'm not like saying it's like looking terrible, but it's just not looking bullish. Here's healthcare, kind of going sideways. Here's our financial sector. Kind of going sideways. Now, if you recall from last week, we talked about how what we need to focus on is the consumer discretionary sector, which is now going sideways. This is where the recent strength of the market has been. And if we look at the breakdown of the consumer discretionary sector, and we look at the holdings, we can see that this is a sector that's dominated by two stocks, Amazon and Tesla. So let's go look at Amazon and Tesla. Amazon heading lower. Okay. So we know that's not where the strength is coming from. And we'll look at Tesla. And Tesla has been strong. So basically, what I'm trying to tell you is that, in my opinion, the only thing that is keeping up this market is Tesla. And Tesla is getting close to a resistance level. As a matter of fact, it's at resistance. Now, next question. You're probably like, well, Mark, why the hell would something get to resistance and then sell off? Well, here's why. It's because of anxious sellers. Resistance levels are a group or a large concentration of traders and investors who are looking to sell at or close to the same price. Around here, it's we're going to call it 265. Sometimes some of the people that want to sell start to think, gee, this stock isn't moving any higher. There must be other sellers coming into the market, because I know stocks move high or trend higher if there's not enough supply or if there's not enough sellers. If we're not moving higher anymore, I can logically deduce that there are new sellers coming into the market. So some of the sellers start to get concerned that they're going to miss out. They're afraid another seller will be willing to sell at a lower price. That's who the buyers are going to go to. So these sellers start to reduce the prices that they're willing to sell at. They want to have the lowest offer. That when you're a trader and you go to sell something, you call it an offer. They want to have the lowest offer in the market. So other anxious sellers see that and they're like, oh, this dude's trying to undercut me. Screw him. I'm going to go to a lower price. They're at 261. I'm going to go to 260. Someone's like, that guy's going to 260. I'm going to 259. So forth and so forth and so on. So I think to get some real insight over what's going to happen with equities over the next couple of days, it's pretty easy, man. You just got to keep an eye on what goes on with Tesla. Just want to take a quick look at oil, quick look at natural gas. All right. So one of the things about being a successful trader, ooh, man, look at that. Natural gas breakout. I know a lot of you guys have made a lot of money on that because we talked about if we break this resistance, we get to move higher. When you break resistance, that means you trade above it. It's not just symbolic. It tells us that like the investors who created the resistance with their sell orders are out of the way. They're gone. They're finished. They're canceled. So the buyers come in. They got to pay higher and higher prices, and you get a massive move like this. I guess you could say it's because of the hurricane and so forth. And God forbid, hopefully you are all safe. I saw it today. Like it's up to 250. I'm sorry, 150 people have died. But I don't want to be morbid. But just going back to equities, if there's one thing to focus on over the next couple of days, just watch Tesla. As Tesla goes, that's going to most likely the broader markets are going to follow. Okay. All right. Thanks, everyone. I will see you all soon, hopefully.